Hey folks, welcome to
FiddleHed.
Fiddle Lessons, and today we're going to learn more about how to add variation to Irish tunes. We're going to learn about rolls, which are the addition of 3 to 4 notes that are slurred together added to a main note. So we take a jig like Kerfunken jig, and we add a roll at the beginning. So that's the basic idea of what we're going to do. Now let's go into more depth on how it works and learn how to practice it. So I'm going to show you how to do 2 kinds of rolls. One is called the I call a front-loaded roll. The other is a little bit of a delay. I call it a delayed roll. The roll happens a little later. Very subtle difference. But before we get into those subtle differences, we're just going to start practicing the basic melodic movement of a roll very slowly. With all these kind of little Irish variations, I think the way to do it is to first figure out what exactly you got to do, and then just very slowly practice it on one note, then on another note, then on those notes strung together. Very incremental learning. Because your hands need a lot of time, more time than your brain. Your brain will start to hear what it wants to do, but your hands haven't caught up yet. So if we're doing a roll, let's start with putting a roll we add rolls to like main notes. And so the easiest way to add them is like to first finger, second finger, and third finger. It's not really possible to add it to a fourth finger, like D4. There's ways you can get around that by shifting up, which is beyond the scope of this particular lesson. I'm just going to go deep into what a roll is, how to practice it. So basically, in slow motion, say we're adding a roll to D1, say a series of quarter notes on D1, a front-loaded roll would be, and slowing it down more, we have 1, 2, 1, open, 1. And so that, basically, if you practice that, then you just want to increase your speed with it. The idea being that given enough time, we're talking years maybe, it'll be quick enough that it doesn't clutter the tune, that it adds a cool rhythmic, it propels it forward rhythmically, all right? But in the beginning, the rolls are going to be slower. Just accept that. Do your best with it. And so I'm going to give you a little exercise to practice. So let me break it down for you. 1, 1. 1, 2, 1, open, 1, 1. And now with flow, and we'll add a slur. We're gonna 1, 1, slur. That's what we're gonna do, okay? So if you're on FiddleHed.com, you can see this tabbed out sheet music too. Go there now if you want, if you're not already there. Now we're gonna take a moment and loop this together. 3, 4. This is the core exercise you need to do to get this, all right? Basically, then you would just speed it up. I did a little different. Let me do it again. You see, and you just keep pushing the speed. But so don't be in too much of a hurry though. We can do this on other fingers. But let's do it one more time based on D1 with this play along track. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. So there are more play along tracks on the FiddleHed page for this lesson. So we can do the same idea with basing around D2. It would be D2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2. Once again. And then you would just eventually get it to be this fast. And same thing with D3. 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 3. So once you can do that slowly on each of those fingers, slowly and continuously in a continuous groove, then you're ready to go. You should just continue doing that and practice it 1,000 times. Repeat 1,000 times, 1,000 times. No joke, practice it 1,000 times. So that's no joke. Really, if you do practice that 1,000 times, you're gonna just really start to see results with it. And it may just be fun. It sounds daunting, it sounds crazy, but you may end up really enjoying going with it and doing that. And it's not to say, there's a lot of ways you could vary it when you're playing it 1,000 times. You could do it quiet, do it loud, you could do it slower, you could do it faster, do it on a different string, just to name a few big ideas for how to practice that. So quiet, loud, all right, different string. All right, cool. So what if you're reading sheet music, how do you know when to add it or what it looks like? So I just want to show you that usually rolls are notated with this funny symbol, scroll-like symbol. Sometimes they're written out with, they're actually, each note of the roll is written out in grace, little tiny notes called grace notes. But usually they write it like this, like in the Fiddler's Fake Book and other Irish tune books. And not to mention though, a lot of times in different books and stuff, it won't even be notated, and you have to just add it on your own. So it's kind of good to be able to learn how it works on your own, not to always have to read it to get the basic idea. And you could add this to longer notes. So you could add it anywhere, but as a beginner, I would add it to situations you have long notes, like the beginning of Cash Jig. Let's see, beginning of Kerfunken Jig. That's roughly the idea of a roll. Now I talked about that there's two subtle ways to do it: a front-loaded roll and a delayed roll. So I want to talk about the delayed roll now, and which is basically we take this, instead of, say we're doing Kerfunken again, instead of, we do like, all right. And so there's I want to give you another very simple exercise to practice it. So it's like the first one, but we're kind of delaying the quick notes a little bit. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, open, 1. A little slower. All right, a little faster. So that sort of way I'm playing it, it would be notated as a 16th note triplet. It's not quite fast enough to be written in super tiny script or a roll yet. By the way, rolls are also known as turns in classical music. All right, but if we take this basic idea of the delayed roll and then just speed that up. And center it around D2 as our main note. And D3. So you could also do D low 1, D low, so did I say low 1, low 2? Or D low 1. Or D high 3. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the rolls. Here's one other idea. You could do it with wider intervals. What does that mean? So instead of 1, say our main note is D1, you could instead of 1, 2, 1 open 1, you could do 1, 3, 1 open 1. So I would say only try this idea if you've already gotten the basic idea down. But here's how this wider interval sounds. It's hard to tell the difference. Here's the smaller interval, wider interval. As you speed it up, it's harder to tell. I'll alternate a little bit. So you can hear the alternation a little bit now, but what about if it's really fast? It becomes hard to tell, but you can play with the speed in nice ways once you become more advanced with it, to kind of like, so you can bring out the tones of those notes more. The faster it goes, the harder it is to actually hear the tones, if that makes sense. So another way to do the wide intervals is basing around the main note of D2 using 4. Oh, Nelly! Okay, so cool. So we're gonna close the lesson by just suggesting some places you can do it in tunes. So the take-home message of this lesson and all the other lessons is that when you practice any variation, you want to go between the basic and the variation in a loop. All right, so we're going to do that right now. So let's look at Kerfunken jig again. I like to use the same examples over and over again, and it's not because I just think that way you can really get an idea of how the different variations work on a very familiar tune. But I have lots of tune examples on the FiddleHed page. So if we play the basic version of Kerfunken, and then we do the roll, and you can do it if you're learning it, it's going to be a little slower. So we do basic, basic, variation. Did it slow there. Basic, variation. All right, so let's do another example. How about rolling waves? So at the beginning, it's the same note, D2. So slow it down. That's the variation. Basic. Now the variation. Now speed it up. What's another good example? Kesh jig. So that Kesh jig, we would need 4th finger. So So that one's a little bit more challenging. Let's see, what's another example? I don't even know what tune that is. Yeah, I'll remember it. Somebody will remember it later. I'll remember it later. but there's the roll on D1. All right. So anyway, gee, I hope that's helpful to you. Sorry for forgetting the name of one of the example tunes. I actually wasn't planning on doing it. It just kind of popped in my head. And I hope that's useful. What I've been doing with a lot of these lessons is I think of things later, and then I'll add a supplemental video to the FiddleHed page just because I'm like, just the process of making these lessons, I kind of figure stuff out as I go. Even if I try my best to plan out every detail, just when you're actually under the gun and the camera's pointed at you, you end up thinking of new things. So I'm gonna try to, if I think of anything else, I'll put it there or just in the notes on the lesson page. So thanks folks for watching. Thank you for being here and for joining me on the fiddle and for fiddling with me. And I hope you have a great day and lots of fun playing this thing. And we'll see you next time. Go to FiddleHed.com for a progressive step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.